Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise today in follow-up of a previous Grieve I made celebrating the visit of the Government and the Cabinet to our electorate. I think I speak on behalf of the community where it's a really uplifting feeling, having that feeling that we have a number of things moving in the right direction and the receptive ear that we received upon their visit. But on this occasion I want to raise a few things that, as the budget takes place, as it's formed behind the scenes, that I hope the Government are considering in Narungga. These are things that may have been considered at Country Cabinet, but also things that we might not have had the opportunity in the course of those 2 days to touch on properly, and that I want to get on the record as priorities for the electorate in Narungga. And first and foremost is the provision of a new rescue vessel at Point Turton. And I've reached out to the Minister about this, and he's lent a wonderful receptive ear about it. And in the course of his investigations, he's discovered that the Volunteer Marine Rescue Vessel Replacement Program, which is administered by the VMR Council, has not included a new vessel for Point Turton within its current program, which is incredibly disappointing, Mr Speaker. In the course of my 5 years as a member for Narungga, it's been an issue. And it just so happens that the vessel currently in use at Point Turton is limited to, if memory serves, 2 nautical miles offshore, which is of course not where boats tend to break down and need rescuing from. And that means, with that boat limited to that distance offshore, that there is a gap between Port Victoria all the way around to Edithburgh in terms of sea rescue. So I would encourage, and I've written to the Government expressing this, and I'll certainly be following it up with Volunteer Marine Rescue, to make sure that the Point Turton flotilla have their need prioritised a bit higher, and that they find themselves on that program for a new vessel sooner rather than later. And the other thing that came up quite frequently at Country Cabinet, at the community forum we held, was the need to accelerate the replacement of an outdoor swimming pool for the community in Wallaroo. It was actually quite extraordinary. If I had placed a bet on what would come up most often at that Country Cabinet, I'm not sure that pool would have reached the top of the list, but reached the top of the list it did, and come up on a number of occasions. And it has been some years now since the previous iteration was destroyed by a storm, and we have yet not seen any progress made on replacing it. And such a wonderful community asset. So many kids do so much of their swimming training and Royal Lifesaving and that sort of stuff at that pool, or used to anyhow, that its replacement needs to be accelerated and prioritised. Council needs to be empowered to replace that facility as soon as possible. So I again have written to the Government imploring them to include some sort of funding for that in this budget upcoming. As well as that, and this was touched on at Country Cabinet as well, the York Peninsula Field Days, which are being held again this year, every second year, have a desperate need for a replacement admin building. So on a number of years ago, perhaps 5 years ago, there was an arson attack which burnt down their admin building along with all their records and memorabilia and a whole bunch of valuable stuff. And to date, that has yet to be replaced. We were very close in a grant program, which was unfortunately then altered to suit other needs, but we were very close in that grant program and unfortunately haven't been able to find one since. So they have a plan drawn up. They have a plan drawn up to do a new admin building in the shape of a grain silo, or grain silos plural, which would be a wonderful addition to the field days, which draws in a huge crowd in every other year to our community and is being run out of a tent basically at the moment. So that's very much on the list for the YP as well. And the other really important thing, which I was disappointed not to have the opportunity to show the relevant ministers when they came and visited recently, was there is a unique opportunity for a tourism promotion venture at Port Wakefield. As we all know in this place, Port Wakefield is currently in the midst of a huge redevelopment, or has just completed a huge redevelopment, which has left the town looking a treat, but has also provided an opportunity in terms of space and more parking and stopping opportunities for those travelling through to have a tourism promotion venture. And the Wakefield Council have drawn up plans to have an interactive digital precinct which would promote all of those council areas and all of those tourism areas to the west and north of Port Wakefield. So I think that would be a wonderful addition to our tourism landscape. I'd love for the Government to help with the capital cost of installing that digital tourism advertisements, and I think it would be a real asset to our tourism ventures at large. But once again, in conclusion, we're very thankful for the Government visiting over Country Cabinet recently, but as the budget is built over the coming weeks and months, hope those things get due consideration by those that have the power to make decisions.